Hello and welcome into the Wildcat Weekly Coaches Report here with head football coach Joseph Smith. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
You're welcome.
So Linfield comes off a massive win last week going up against Willamette, putting up another 77 points, but also pitching their first shutout of the season. What are your thoughts on the big win for the Cats?
Well, anytime you can shut a team out, that's cause for, we like that here. So Linfield's always been a defense-first program, and that's something we take a lot of pride in. So I'm really proud of how those guys played. Certainly there maybe wasn't as much talent that we were going against in terms of threat, but I liked how the guys played, and that was a good day for us.
Yeah, just so many notable performances on both sides of the ball, and we'll really get into those. But first, obviously, the Linfield offense, again, 77 points. That's back-to-back games and starting to really creep up in the statistics on not only the conference level but on the national level as well. Number one in the nation in passing offense. Number two, when you look at completion percentage as well as efficiency, that's mostly towards Wyatt. And then number three, when it comes to total scoring offense. Linfield's defense is also in the top 30 now in multiple categories, notably red zone defense, scoring defense, and total defense as well. As the competition starts to get tougher and tougher throughout the rest of the season, how do you continue to improve upon this already fantastic run you guys have been on?
Well, I think what we're seeing is we're a different team than we were early in the year. We're much more explosive, and that all starts up front. You know, as our offensive line has really gelled and started to play together better, we're able to get the time to make use of the weapons we have on the outside, and our running game's coming around, so we're much more, I would say we're more complete at this point. Still have a long ways to go. Obviously the last 2 weeks, the defenses we were going against were not as stout as say maybe our first two games. So that has something to do with it, and we're still feeling the pain of having lost, our two seniors on the offensive line. So we're all freshmen and sophomores. It's uncharted water for us in terms of having that amount of youth there, but there's a great deal of talent, and Coach Heyer's done an amazing job bringing them around. And the best part is we're still going to get better. So we're going to be better in 3 weeks dramatically than we are today.
Only one sack allowed in that contest a week ago. 3 different quarterbacks threw a touchdown in that game. Wyatt Smith, Clark Hazlitt, Colby Iverson, which kind of leads me into when you have these blowout games, you get to see a lot of players of the future. When you talk about it, you had freshman Colby Iverson throw a touchdown. He's also had a couple rushing touchdowns this season. Spencer Lee at the receiver position had a couple of big plays, one as a receiver, one as a returner. Freshman Franco Keplinger has his first career touchdown. And the list just goes on and on and on. You guys use 7 different running backs that are all freshmen. And then on the defensive side of the ball, too, we saw a lot of good plays from Josh Hannigan, who's a sophomore that's returning. But lots of talent there. What does it mean to you to be able to see the future of this program, to see that it's in pretty good hands with a lot of talent there?
Well, I think the future is certainly bright when you look at that, and we knew coming in that we needed to bring in a lot of young, skilled players. That we just were down in the numbers at those positions on offense and defense. So we filled those holes, and we've got tremendous amount of nice young players that are have great potential. And our defense, you mentioned Mr. Hannigan, but the almost entire front's sophomores. So D-line, and linebackers, very, very young there. And so, the O-line's been getting a lot of attention in terms of being so young, but we're also just as young there. And so every week we play, we're getting more stout against the run. Our technique's getting better. Our fence, if you will, is getting stronger. And we're very optimistic.
Yeah, Brady Wessel, Chase Leidig, Brian Pullman, just to name a few of those guys on the defensive side of the ball, all sophomores. Now looking again a little bit more at the running backs, we're starting to see a committee kind of take shape here. Artie Johnson has been able to get a couple of holes in the last couple of games. Connor McNabb has really come on. He's someone you were telling us about in camp that you were really excited about. And then Tanner Earhart there is kind of a big, good pass-protecting back, very strong too. We saw him run over a couple guys last week. Is this something we can expect to see here for the rest of the season? Again, I know there's a lot of talent there running the ball, but is this something we expect?
I would think so. We want to have a group of guys there that are all capable, and certainly a running back core is much like a pitching staff. You want to have different stuff, if you will. I know that's a silly expression, but they present the ball differently and have different strengths. So they all have their strengths, and I think Connor is very talented, as you mentioned, and he's very versatile in what he can do. And of course, Artie's a wonderful motor to have, and Tanner's really reliable and wonderful young man. So we're very confident in all those guys.
So now taking a look ahead to PLU this weekend, Pacific Lutheran kind of scuffling. They'll be at home. We'll travel up to Puyallup, but particularly on offense, they've really been near the bottom of the conference in multiple offensive categories. But they're going to make a change here. We're expecting to see a new quarterback, sophomore. Excuse me, I want to make sure I get the name right. Braden Amoroso is going to get his first start of the season. We've seen Bryce Missy get a lot of chances. This will be the fourth different quarterback we see. At least that is the projected depth chart coming in for PLU. How do you make a young quarterback like that uncomfortable to start the season, to start a game like that? And how do you kind of get into his head, especially when you don't really have a lot of film on him?
Well, our defense normally does a good job of making quarterbacks uncomfortable. They're mix up their looks in terms of coverage-wise, but more importantly, they get pressure on the quarterback. So if you can be disruptive up front, you can make things very difficult for a young quarterback and force poor decisions, which lead to big plays. And so, I would expect our defense to play well. We're very cognizant of their defense. I think they do some really nice things. On the other side of the ball, they mix things up and they play hard, and they're pretty young too. So. Be interesting.
They have a pretty stingy pass defense too. That's one of their strengths. They're also number one in tackles per game. So, Wyatt and the rest of the passing offense at least should have a pretty good challenge there with some young corners, as you said. And then kind of lastly here, when you take a look at the season, we're over halfway through the regular season already. The team has looked really good, coming off 3 straight wins now, but going up against a little bit of a tougher opponent, at least on the defensive side of the ball. What are your goals here for the rest of the season as we come down the stretch?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the number one in tackles. I've never understood that because there's only a certain amount of tackles that can be made in a game, and some places in the conference there's more tackles given at certain places, and I think there's a little bit of an inflation there in the statistics, which quite frankly bothers me. There's only so many tackles that can be made in a game relative to how many plays are run. So that's just a side note, but. Goals for the game or the season, are the same. We're trying to get better. We're not where we need to be to beat a top 5 team in the country. And let's be real, the top teams in the country are not anything like what we're playing in right now. I mean, they look very different. They're much bigger, stronger, faster, all the above. And so they're waiting for us out there. They're Division II caliber type teams, and we've got a ways to go before we can realistically stand up to one of those teams and beat them, and that's our goal. So we're getting better, and I fully expect to be there by the end of the season.
Well, Coach, thank you very much for the time. Cats will be up in Puyallup at 1 o'clock will be the kickoff for that one. There's going to be a tailgate. Plenty of Linfield people will be making their way up north, so make sure you get involved with that. But, Coach, thank you very much for the time, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.